Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't posted on YouTube here in a little bit. I've been kind of busy working on some products, working on some things, and that's what today's video is. If you've seen the description or the title, basically I received a thermal from a company that I applied for a program basically, and I got it because of my YouTube and my Instagram following, and they sent me a product out to try and test out, and it's a thermal. And I was very excited to get this because I've never had something like that happen to me before. I've gotten a couple of things for like a lower cost or like just given to me to give a product review. But yeah, basically, let's get into it. So this company sent me the Athlon Cronus. Athlon sent me it is the Athlon Cronus ATS Pro 25P-250. So basically this is a 256 sensor thermal, and yeah, I got it through that program, and basically I've been running it for about the last month, going out in the backyard hunting with it a little bit. I've just been trying to see overall what it's been like and just doing some tests and taking some video that I'll plumb into this video at some point. I'm not sure when I'll do it, maybe in the middle of this video, maybe at the end, but yeah, let's go over it. This is what I was sent to do, so let's give her a good shot and a full review here. First thing I thought was that this 256 sensor was pretty surprising. It was pretty good quality. I've had some 384s and some 256s before, back when I was just starting thermal hunting, but basically they're not the greatest thing ever. They let you down for sure. You get what you pay for in the thermal industry, especially back a couple of years ago when they were first starting, or not starting out, but first producing mainstream thermals, Pulsar, iRay, ATN. There was quite a few companies, and now there's a ton to choose from. But basically, back then it was, if you had a 256, it was pretty poor quality, and you couldn't really tell what you were making out. However, with this 256, you can definitely tell. I'll plumb in that video probably right about now, and I'll do a voiceover on that. But basically, as you can see from the video, out to 100 yards, which is where I walked. I did a pace count out to 100 yards. I didn't have a rangefinder on any of my thermals, but I'll do a side-by-side with my Bolt 50 and this Athlon Cronus. But basically, it's pretty good quality, and I could definitely tell what I'm making out. I've looked at deer. I haven't taken any video. I should have. Deer, coyote, couple of possums, some squirrels. I got a picture, a video of my cat as well in the bathroom, and that's probably at 10 or 15 yards. So yeah, this 256 sensor, it definitely surprised me. I was thoroughly impressed. You know, when I first got it, I was like, man, I wish this was a 384 or something, maybe closer to like a 640, because that is something I want to get into is like a clip-on or something in the 640 range. And Athlon does make something like that. That is a new product that hopefully they'll send me as well if this review goes good enough. But basically, the 256 really blew me away as far as quality. I used to have an old XM30 from Pulsar that's a couple years old, and that thing does not even touch this thing. And that's a 384 sensor, and this is a 256. This thing is a lot better than that, and this channel is not shitting on Pulsar all day long. I understand that I have said some things about Pulsar, and they have great products that are brand new. Their merger series is amazing. Their new scopes are amazing. And if they want to send me something, hey, have at it. But anyways, yeah, surprisingly, this 256 sensor was very nice. I could see out to 300-400 yards, and especially if I'm using this as just like a spotter and using I have an iRay Bolt 50, but using that as my hunting scope, it's definitely a game changer for me. Rather than being in the scope and having to run the call at the same time, I can be in this Athlon and scanning around while hitting buttons on my remote from my Fox Pro. And yeah, just basically make my hunting life a lot easier, less difficult than it needs to be. All right, the value is for sure there. This retails at around $750. I think the MSRP is around $950. So if you're thinking about getting like a handheld or something to help you thermal hunt, I would definitely consider this as a good handheld. I know the Rix, the K3, I think that one is also impressive, and I think this one might outdo the K3. But yeah, if I can get my hands on a K3, I can definitely do a side-by-side with this. I'll have this thing for quite a while, and I plan to do some more side-by-sides with some Pulsars, some I've got some friends with new knock picks and other things like that, and we'll definitely be able to get a side-by-side with a couple more thermals. I just don't currently. I moved back home, and all my friends end up in a couple hours away from me. So if I go up there and hunt with them, I'll definitely get a side-by-side and get some footage from them to plumb in. But yeah, so decent bang for buck. The QD attachment, my one gripe about this thing, I have a couple of things that could use some work, but basically this here is your little mount that you could put on a Picatinny rail, and I'll show you in a little bit. I have a rifle sitting here that I can put one on, but basically this here Picatinny mount is all metal. It is connected to the thermal, which is nice. However, once you get up here to this clip that moves, obviously, and clamps down, this here, as you can hear, is plastic. However, this mount is metal over here. I don't know if it's aluminum. I'm not sure what it is, but this over here is plastic. I'm not a huge fan of that. The lockdown is not super tight, and overall, I wish I could change this or do something that would be metal. I could always change the mount, I think, with these screws underneath, so I may plan on doing that just because, and you'll see in a little bit, when I lock that down on a rail, it wiggles freely, and it just, I don't think it's going to hold a great zero. Granted, if you're using it as a thermal clip-on, it's going to be fine. However, if you're using this as your primary scope, it's not going to do well. It's not going to hold zero for sure. And yeah, let me show you that real quick. Obviously, on this setup, I'm currently scopeless. That's besides the point. And I'll get into a video on this rifle build here next. This is my next video. But yeah, look at this clip-on. It is clipped on, and you can see, and you can hear, this thing wiggles freely, though it is mounted down onto this Picatinny rail, obviously. And yeah, that's a huge thing I think would obviously make it not hold zero, so that's not a great thing. However, I'm sure it can be adjusted somehow. I just haven't gotten around to it, and maybe I'll contact Athlon and just see what their plans are to fix this. And maybe this is a common thing that they have a quick fix for, or maybe this is something that I can help them in developing a better product for them, and maybe switch it to a metal clamp down piece rather than a plastic, because obviously, like, this is a 6-arc. It's not, I mean, it's not a crazy recoil. It's not like I'm shooting 6.5 or 308 or something, but still, I feel like that's really going to wiggle loose, and after heavy use as a clip-on, it would probably just break, if I had to guess. But yeah, that's my one big gripe on this. So with that being said, obviously that is my one gripe. However, I do still have a couple more good things about this thermal. Thermals are finicky. I have had 4 now, and I'm currently on the IRA Bolt 50, and I run into problems every time I take that thing out. It's got a really weird finicky thing where it doesn't like to turn on unless it's plugged in, and then once it's plugged in, it'll keep turning on. But sometimes I'll just be running into it, and I'll go out to the field, and I don't have something, it's a USB-C, I don't have something to plug it in with, and it won't turn on. And I'll have to go home, get something, and that's really aggravating, especially when you're traveling to hunt like I do. That is one thing I'm not a fan of. So yeah, that's a good thing that this has. This thing turns on very quickly. It turns off quickly. Obviously, with all thermals, you got to hold it out until it completely turns off. Otherwise, you'll send it into the standby mode, which is going to kill your battery. I've done that before. Thermals are a learning curve for sure, especially if you haven't run one before. Recording is super easy. That's a one-button click. You can see up in your corner the click on, and it'll just start recording. It's simple. It's insanely simple. It's for sure a good thing about this scope. However, the menu button is a little bit confusing. Definitely have to read into that and figure out how to get into the menu, because at first glance it is pretty confusing. The charging is super easy. It's USB-C as well, which is really nice, especially if you carry like a battery pack or something. You can easily just turn it on or clip that or rubber band that to your rail or something if your scope does die, which this thing has great battery life from what I've seen. And it has the 18500 batteries, which is the same as my IRA Bolt 50, so I can interchange those as well, which is a very nice thing. However, I would like to see the 18650 batteries in it, because that's what the newer scopes are going to, and they have a little bit longer of a battery life, and I think less finicky on the batteries. I know the 18500 batteries, I bought some that don't work in these thermals, which is really disappointing, and I don't think you have that problem in the 18650s. Wrapping it up here, this is a great thermal for the money. However, is it the greatest thermal ever? No, obviously not. There are thermals for 8,000 out there. The new Knox picks, the new Pulsars, they are very, very expensive, and you get what you pay for. However, if you're trying to get into something cheap, especially as a scanner, this is a great option. I did see one guy, I've seen a couple of videos of guys really saying this is the greatest thermal ever. For the price, it is a good thermal. It is not the greatest thermal ever, and I have seen some guys really poo-pooing on this particular scope. I know one guy is seen, not shitting on him, but he ordered it from Amazon, and he was going to try and last-minute hunt with it, and it let him down. Well, first off, you ordered from Amazon. That's always, I get stuff from Amazon. Everybody orders from Amazon, but if you're trying to buy something nice and like a thermal, I would not suggest buying from Amazon. That's just my 2 cents on there. And yeah, basically he poo-pooed on this completely and said it was junk and completely worthless, and you'll never buy Athlon or cheap thermal. Cheap thermals have their place, and especially if you're trying to hunt on a budget, they do have their place. However, thermal hunting is not a budget hobby, and if you want to get into it, I would definitely try something else. So best use case for this thermal is obviously as a spotter, and then second I would say is a clip-on. Third, I would say a primary scope. However, with the condition of the QD mount, I would not use this as a primary scope. I just feel like there'd be too many headaches with that, and you would definitely not hold zero, and it would, even just that little movement, me moving around to find a coyote or a possum or something like that, it's going to wiggle itself free, and you're not going to shoot where you're trying to. So that would be an issue, in my opinion. The refresh rate would definitely be another factor. The refresh rate, it is quite often. I couldn't even tell you what the specification is on that, but I know it does refresh quite often, and there is quite a bit of a blip in there. I know the new iRays and the Pulsars have got to like a 60 hertz refresh rate, so that it's very quick and it's a long duration between refreshes. I know a lot of people have videos of it freezing while they're mid-shot or whatever, but yeah, the new thermals have a countdown and stuff like that, so you can get away with that refresh rate, and that is one thing that these thermal scopes you do struggle with. But yeah, overall, this is a good scope for the money. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments. If you got anything you want to talk shit to me about, by all means, leave it in the comments. I like to talk back to people. And yeah, follow me on Instagram, like and subscribe. And once again, any questions, hit me up. Have a great one, guys.